Let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an APRO member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is APRO's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. APRO membership is about way more than advocacy. APRO connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry, people who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. APRO's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. APRO's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. APRO is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With APRO, members get more. More support, more connections, and more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the APRO family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with APRO. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the RTO Show podcast. I'm your host, Pete Chow. And today we're talking to Ed Winn, the newly retired legal counsel for APRO, who just as of February decided to take a step back and retire after 40 long years in the rent-to-own industry. Thank God that he's been around here that long, because Lord knows that we've needed it. He's been instrumental in getting things done. And I mean, starting from beginning, Ed, where did APRO start? I mean, it was absolutely almost nothing when you started, or nothing when you started. And then you helped it come along from its infancy all the way to where it is now. Where did you start?
So the first APRO office was in my law office. I hired a secretary. On we went.
So when you say FRDA, right, the Furniture Rental Dealers Association, and that wasn't the RDAs that we normally speak of, because we talk about rental dealer associations as in the Florida Rental Dealer Association, the Missouri Rental Dealer Association, you know, the New York Rental Dealer Association. How did those come about? When you get this literally from ground up on APRO and you start being their legal counsel, where did the RDAs come from? Was that a break off of what you had done there in Texas?
FRDA long predated rent-to-own, been around, I'm going to suppose, since the 50s. And there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 purely furniture rental companies. They rented by the month only, and they rented to visiting executives. Sometimes they had ownership options, sometimes they didn't. And it sort of went to, I mean, it was a national trade association, FRDA, Furniture Rental Dealers of America. They had a general counsel who may have been in Atlanta, may have been in DC. He and I used to talk. That trade association may or may not exist. I don't know. Now, the state groups came into existence. Your Florida and Texas came into existence over the course of time as APRO, facilitate enacting state laws. The very first one of which came into existence in 1983, Michigan. And there may have been a Michigan Rental Dealers, I don't know, Michigan Rental Dealers Association, that kind of came and went. They came into existence long enough to get the laws passed, and then they went away. And it's been a struggle, at least in some states, to keep those state associations going. Some obviously are very successful. Florida, the Midwest guys, Nebraska. I could name the ones if I was looking at a list that have been successful over the years. But it's also been California, for example. It is a troublesome state from many points of view, and we've never been very good at getting a state association to sustain itself in that state, for example.
Is that because of the state laws, or is it because the people in that state or the business owners in that state have varying different views and kind of don't see eye to eye, so that they're not able to sit down around on a round table and say, this is the things that we want to enact, or this is what we want to do? So is it more of a company situation, or is it more that the state laws created to be a little bit more difficult to operate in a state or to hold a dealer association?
Well, those state associations came into existence in order to get the laws passed. And rental dealers rarely fought over the wording of those laws, although there was some guys said, oh, geez, I wish we had higher late fees and I don't like this part of the law and I don't like that part of the law. But the quid pro quo in all of those state laws was in exchange for submitting to government regulation and making disclosures, having to be registered, having to be licensed, whatever those regulations required. In exchange for submitting to that, we want protection from lawsuits. We don't want to be run out of business by being recharacterized as a credit sale. So all of those state laws say a rent-to-own transaction is this, and it's not a credit sale, conditional sale, installment sale, security interest under Article 9. And that was the deal that we struck when we were getting these laws passed. So the groups came together to go to the state capitals to get the laws passed. Once the law got passed, they went back to renting TVs. They weren't interested in going to meetings. So the state associations kind of dissolved.
One of the big aspects of it is having somebody who's really willing to kind of not only rent and collect on the TVs, but stay true to the actual meetings and making sure the minutes are getting taken and going through the action and the motions to keep it active.
States that have had a champion, somebody who wants to have a state association, have been able to keep it going. States that will lose their champion because he sells his company or they never could find one, they've had trouble sustaining themselves.
So talking about the current legal climate and what's going on, of course, we have a new administration right now. It's right around the corner. We're right before LegCon, and we plan on going to D.C. to make sure that we advocate for rent to own. With the current administration that's in office, do you see that as there's been a big talk about Trump being very, let's take out regulation. Let's work more in the state level. Let's get things moving. Do you see this administration as a better move for rent to own overall, or is that possibly something that might hurt us in the long run with the tariffs and some of the regulations that they might add later on, in your opinion?
Well, my personal view is it's only a good thing. Having Trump in the White House will be good for RTO because if he's left to his own devices, he'll put the CFPB out of business.
Yes.
And if the prices of TVs rise, if guys are buying TVs from China and tariffs hit wholesale prices, they'll just pass them on. I mean, that ain't gonna hurt the business, I don't think.
So the CFPB, of course, is one of the things that one of the topic points was going to come up because I actually agree with you. I think that he'd be on the other side of it to deregulate or to cut that all together to make sure that it doesn't impede on some of the things that can help growth. Now, the things that are happening, like let's say on a state level. So we still have the situations and the bills that are coming up in New York that are kind of going towards that regulation. Do you see that still happening as a state level, or do you think that might even be corrected as a federal level, and then it kind of covers on the state level thought?
Well, when APRO got started, the goal was to get a federal law passed and have RTO recognized as its own distinct transaction, separate and apart from the credit. And we tried, and we spent a lot of money in D.C. with lobbyists over the years, and we were never successful. We came close in 1983. We got a bill through the Senate. We came close again in 2001. We got a bill barely passed through the House. Republican after Republican said, listen, you guys don't live in Washington, D.C. You do not want federal regulation, and we're not going to help you get it because it's a mistake. And obviously the Democrats hated rent-to-own anyway, just when they woke up in the morning. So we snuck a bill. Really, the vote was like we got that bill passed. We didn't pass the bill. We got it through the House by maybe 3 votes. It died in the Senate in 2001. We had a public hearing in 2005, and the industry sort of abandoned the federal effort after that. We had to fool with Dodd-Frank and the creation of the CFPB in 2010, and we were able to keep RTO out of that law and that bureau. But that's not been a serious issue, and I don't think it's going to ever be a serious issue. It costs too much money. We'd have to spend, I don't know what the number would be now. I used to say it would cost us $10 to $20 million to get a federal law passed, and we were spending $1 to $2 million. We weren't spending enough money. There's no telling what it would cost now to get a federal law. And really, my view is we don't need one. That we've got all these state laws and they're working. So we're going to have some rear guard actions in the states like the New York but we'll beat those back. I don't see New York changing the law or any other state unraveling the existing regulatory environment for rent. That's just not a lie.
Yeah, I know that Charles Smitherman and the CEO of APRO and the guys in the New York Rental Dealer Association, Jeff Smith and the rest of them are working on that, constantly to get that taken back. Once it came back in session, I know they were working very hard with a lot of other companies in that area to kind of what's going on. Now, I meant to ask you because I really don't know this, and I'm possibly going to learn this as we go, as I do more rent to own. I know in Florida we have statute 812.155. Is that a statute that is or has a sister statutes like that in other states that kind of read the same, or are they all completely different?
What statute are you referring to in Florida? Just the RTO statute or the criminal notice part of it?
Correct. It's a third-degree felony to keep rental merchandise.
Florida is unique in requiring that disclosure in the rental agreements, having to notify customers that, oh, by the way, if you steal TVs, it might be a crime. No other state requires that. And Florida's had a checkered history regarding theft of rental property. It's been outlawed, it's been brought back, it's been outlawed, it's been brought back. These days you can do it. It's a live issue for the RTO industry. There are guys who think you should never file criminal charges against rental thieves. There are other guys who say, hey, somebody steals my TV, I want them in the penitentiary. So the industry's split over that issue. And Texas did away with theft of rental property for RTO. It's gone in South Carolina. It's gone in Virginia. It's gone in Connecticut. Insofar as I know, it's alive and well in the other states, depending on whether you can get your district attorney to prosecute.
So that was actually going to be my next question is, I know that in several occasions, depending on the county that you're in, you can have them be full force and with you and you can get things done and very legally. I mean, nothing outside of the lines, but then you have counties that are a little bit more liberal, a little bit more ease at that, and they don't quite enforce that. Is there any way to really tackle that from a legal standpoint when you have something that's been on the books, but they're not enforcing it?
Here's my advice when dealers call and they're pissed off because the DA won't prosecute rental thieves. My advice to them is, or has been, go to the DA's website, because on that website will be a list of all of the contributors. Those guys run for office. That's an elected office. So if you got a DA you don't like, vote for the other guy next. But in the meantime, look to see who the major contributors to the existing DA were in the last election. And they're going to all be law firms. That's who is interested in getting DAs elected or not. Nobody else cares. So go to that list, find the law firm that makes the largest contributions, that made the largest contributions to the DA, hire somebody out of that law firm and say, get me a meeting with the DA. And you go sit down with the district attorney and a lawyer from the law firm that gave him the most money in his last election, and lay your case out and say, hey, I don't want you to do my collections, but every now and again, I want you to prosecute somebody that spread the word that can't steal TVs from rental dealers with impunity. And it will be very hard for the DA across the table from his biggest political contributor to say no. You're going to be able to work a deal.
So the idea is to tackle them where it hurts, not exactly go head to head in a law situation, find out who their constituents are, find out who's giving them the money to reelect, and then approach it publicly, so to speak.
Politics. I've done it in Texas in a couple of counties. I've gone and met with the DA and negotiated the deal. One time the DA said, yeah, I understand. This is back before the law changed. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. Once a quarter, bring me your best case and I'll prosecute. And the other DA said, I tell you what, as long as the guy has paid less than half on the deal, I'm willing to prosecute if you've got, good facts. So you can't persuade everybody. There are some dyed-in-the-wool liberal district attorneys who are not going to help you. But if you play the political game, you can make headway.
So this is something new for me. We're going to LegCon this April, and we're going to be talking to a brand new administration. I've only done this 1 year, so I'm just kind of used to the old administration. I don't know anything about it. When you're going into LegCon, we're going to go see these people, whether it's on the state level or whether it's on the federal level. On the state level, you can have a new governor, or you can have switch from Republican to Democrat, or Democrat to Republican. Same thing like we're doing at basically the federal level. We've gone from a Democratic president to a Republican president. There's a lot of changes. Is there something that we should do when the changes are? It's not like one of those 8-year listings where we've gone 7 years out of the 8 years and it's been the same presidency. It's been the same kind of people. When you're going to a completely different cabinet, when you're going to a completely different thought process between one party and the next. Do you have any advice for that when you're coming in? You haven't really seen anybody that you had seen before, and this is all brand new. Is there some way that you would tackle it to basically put the flare out there and say, hey, look at us, look at where we are, and have that best foot forward?
Well, every election cycle, every 2 years, the makeup of Congress changes by about a third. You get a third new bodies in there, whether the full whether you change from R to D or D to R. There are brand new people in Washington, D.C. with brand new jobs regulating your world, and you want to go up there and make friends. And the chances are they've been to Ivy League colleges and have never heard of rent to own. So it's been this way for 25 years. That we're not trying to get anything out of the Congress. We're not asking them really to do anything. We're up there to make friends and to make sure that nothing bad happens. So my counsel, and when I go and sit with rental dealers at those meetings, is I want them to have a rent-to-own story, explain what it is that they do and why it is that they do it, and some good emotional tales of customers that you've helped. They make a good story. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got, pockets full, probably. And that's all you're doing. You're just making friends. I don't think you have to do anything radical because we got a new Republican administration. You're going to go and tell a rent-own story because it's a good story and a lot of people hadn't heard it.
So going back to the retirement piece, Ed Wynn, who has been on the legal counsel for 40 years, doing amazing things over these past decades on making rent to own and helping rent to own be what it is. Talking about the retirement, are you going to be at any one of these LegCon events, or are you done with that too? Are you good to pass that torch on to the ones who are trying to do it?
I have passed the torch. Smitherman is a lawyer and a good administrator and a PhD, and he's running APRO like a smooth ship through the water. So I left APRO in very good hands.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Chow here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space, Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing, and let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too.
I'll agree with you. I really like Charles. I like what he's doing with APRO. I like the people that he's kind of put around himself as far as the team that he has. They're very close. They're very dedicated. I've seen a lot of changes in APRO in the last, year or so. It feels like Charles has been around for a lot longer than that, but, he's been around for a long time, enough to make the changes that's needed so that you can see from what happened before he was there till after and how everything interacts. It's going very well. So I will say, I agree with you 100%. So you're in Texas now, correct?
Texas since 1976, Austin.
So out in Texas, when rent to own started kicking off, and you're talking about the Tallies, I mean, I came along when Tally still had Renter's Choice, and before he passed, he was a very dear person in my eyes. Although I never met him, I learned rent to own under that business, under that company, and everything went. So as you start expanding and APRO starts growing, How is it that you get more states to come to the table now that you start this organization and rent to own starts growing, right? Starts expanding. It's in different states, and now it's pretty much everywhere except for maybe two states now.
It's Minnesota. There's no rent to own in Minnesota because of how the law reads. There's one dealer in Wisconsin, again, because of how the law reads. And there's very little rent to own in New Jersey, again, because those states don't have effective rent to own legislation, those three.
So rent to own is expanding, and you have this organization that's starting to bring people in to gather. How do you get those new states or a state in to be a part of this? What is the way that we let them know, hey, this is a great idea. Your RDA is a great idea, but we also want to do this as a collective. How did they get them in, and how did we get the birth of APRO off the ground and growing?
Well, growth these days is virtual.
That's true.
It ain't brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Guys are opening a few stores, maybe storefronts, but the real growth is the RTO, which will one day dwarf the brick and mortar guys, or at least be equal to them. And membership in APRO is by company. So we're not, states aren't members. And APRO has a very active marketing campaign that they're always on the lookout for new entrants into the business. And how they're doing that, I don't know these days. I'm not keeping up with that. But when they hear of somebody who is new to the business, they send them APRO stuff. Say, hey, come join the club. We'll make your business better, and we'll make it safer. The problem is that not everybody understands. I mean, I equate belonging to APRO like having insurance. We're going to make sure nothing bad happens to you. Well, we're not putting money in your pocket. We're taking money out of your pocket. And that's a hard sell for some rental dealers. They don't want to spend money they don't have to spend. And some people just won't. But there's some big guys out there with 100+ stores who have just told me, even though I ask them every time I talk to them or did, you need to join APRO. Nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'll take care of my own business and let somebody else, fund APRO. That's just how trade associations, nationally, trade associations, the last time I looked, there are 30 or 40,000 trade associations. Average membership in national trade associations, 50%. And APRO's got a much higher percentage. We're 70 or 80% of existing rental dealers are members of APRO. So we're doing a pretty good job. Historically, we've done a pretty good job getting people to belong. They understand the risks, and there's some outliers, and, we keep trying to get them, and maybe we will, maybe we won't. Who knows?
Looking down the road a little bit, I know you've been out of it. I know you're technically retired, but you're the go-to source right now. I mean, you have all these years of knowledge with everything that's going on in the world, the CFPB, what's happening with the administration changes. What do you think legally is rent to own's biggest hurdle coming up within the next year?
I don't think we got any serious legal hurdles. I mean, we're going to have a New York pop up every now and again, but we haven't had a state battle. Trying to think, the last, Vermont was the very last state to have enacted meaningful, comprehensive rent-to-own legislation. That was in 2015. So it's been a decade before a state rent-to-own issue has popped up. The New York bill's not going to go anywhere. I mean, we have a very good, effective rent-to-own statute. It's been amended in New York State, so they're not going to. No state has unraveled a rent-to-own law. And so here's an effort to try to do that. It will not be successful. I suppose if I had to speculate, the theft issue pops up from time to time. It's politically somewhat of a hot potato. The liberals can make hay with it. Welfare Mother does 30 days for failure to return rented TV. So it's got a little political panache if you want to try to do away with it. And quite frankly, the industry could survive and prosper if you didn't have that law, if you didn't have the criminal solution to rental thievery. South Carolina, we haven't been able to put people in jail in South Carolina since 1983, passed the RTO statute there. Nobody has ever been able to tell me that rental dealers make less money in South Carolina than anywhere else. So I've lived with that 45 years. And I understand that when we have poll rental dealers, half the guys say, I've never filed criminal charges and I never would. But 80% say, we like that law on the books. We don't want it, we don't want it taken away from us, just in case. That's the only live issue that we got. And then, there's going to be some internecine warfare, perhaps, with the virtual guys, that there's some issues there and how they're doing. But when we got those laws passed state by state, we went with 3 arguments: no obligation, keep rate, and we fix it. It's our stuff. We'll fix it for you. And those were persuasive arguments. And the keep rate in the brick and mortar stores, weekly business under 30%, monthly business under 50%. So most people are giving the stuff back. We are honest to God, and we're not in the pretend. So the virtual guys came along in the 2000 teens, because the payday money was running scared. And there was a lot of payday money. They were changing those laws. So they came and said, hey, we're going to do rent-to-own. I was fielding a call a week, and they said, we got a website. We're going to do rent-to-own. I said, great. How many trucks you got? I don't have any trucks. So, well, how are you going to pick up your property? We're not going to pick up property. We got an algorithm that tells us who's going to pay and who's not. We're only going to rent to the people who pay. And so virtual was born. Well, virtual does have no obligation, but it won't fix the property unless the law dictates it. And the keep rate is high. I don't know how high. They're kind of cagey about that, but they ain't picking up much stuff. They can't pick up much stuff. So what's important, I think, and that's been a live issue in my mind, at least, or was until I retired. Last fall, the Utah federal court judge said in a case against one of the big virtual companies, he said, as long as the contract has a no obligation provision and the customer can give it back at any time, I don't care what happens after that. I don't care what the keep rate is. I don't care whether they pick it up. I don't care what happens. In the 4 corners of the document, the customer's not obligated to keep making payments. It is not credit. And so that sort of, at least for the moment, has answered that question. Will that stand the test of time? I don't know. I don't have.
Right now, you get to say, it's okay. I don't need to know that. So when the dealers say, okay, not necessarily going to press the charges, but having that on the books to say that it's a possibility, that is a recourse, even though we might not take that recourse. Does that make it, and I know they're completely separate from a civil situation and a criminal situation, does that give a leeway to a judge or legally to say we could prosecute criminally? We're not going to, but we just want to get either the payments out of this or the product back. Does that give them a little bit more leeway to say, okay, we'll file it, civilly? We could be doing this criminally. We're not going to, work with us. Is that kind of like how it can work? Or is it could just completely, let's just do civil, not worry about it?
I'm sure from time to time, rental dealers are at the doorstep saying, if you don't give me back my TV, I'm going to have you breaking rocks in the hot sun. I mean, I'm sure that those words are spoken, but what they should be. You're not supposed to threaten criminal prosecution. You can do it. You can file criminal charges. You're not supposed to threaten it. But I'm sure that happens. And so what dealers, as I say, reasonable minds differ about that. And I used to say, when I came along, there were no laws. I was trying to get laws passed. And I thought we were vulnerable. And I didn't go with my chest puffed out. I went hat in hand to the legislature saying, listen, we're honest guys. We're making a living. We're making people's lives better. And we need this law. And I told rental dealers, I said, it's going to make my job and the job of everybody who's trying to make rent-to-own legal a lot harder if we wake up one morning and read in the newspaper, welfare mom does 30 days in jail for failure to return rented TV. That's going to make it harder to get the laws passed. And so I said, don't do it. And guys said, mind your own business, Wynn. I got a business to run, and if people steal my TVs, I'm going to, by God, get them back, or I'm going to get a pound of flesh. So that's been a debate for as long as I've been around, and it's going to continue to be around.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot potato. I mean, you don't want to, it's certainly a case by case when you try to look at a situation and go, okay, what do I do here? What is the right move? Is it intentional, non-intentional? Who's on the other end of this? But then you also have to think, if I let this situation go, is it going to hurt my business to the point because other things are going to follow the suit to this activity? In other words, is somebody going to follow it because it's there to follow? Or is it the right thing to do? And we legally go down this road because it's what we're owed and what the customer signed on to. And it's just, there's so much to that. And, going from state to state thinking, everybody has their different laws and everybody approaches it differently. There are a few states that do that rent to rent. Can you give me a reason as to why those particular states do rent to rent versus a rent to own transaction? Is there a particular legal reason why they can't do a rent to own?
I'm not aware of anybody seriously doing rent to rent other than roll yards for lawnmowers and backhoe diggers. To my knowledge, at least, vibrant rent to rent industry of TVs, appliances, and furniture. Other than there's a shadow of the executive furniture rentals for, they rent an apartment furniture at an apartment full of furniture at a time, 2 or 3 rooms. That's still out there, I think, but it's tiny. Rent to rent is not vibrant in any state that I know, other than, as I say, the rental yards, tents, that stuff.
Well, you're putting together everything that's happened. You're putting together what's happening now, and you're looking forward and going, I don't have anything on the docket. I don't have anything lined up. I don't have anything for the next few months or years. How do you put away 40 years of being really one of the better parts of APRO, being one of the backbone members of APRO, to not being able to do? Now, I say that I'm not 40 years into it, so it might be easier to say, I can put my hand up and walk away with my head held high. But how do you get away from that? How does your normal day-to-day work now that you've been able to go through that and then say, okay, I'm done? Do you still get that calling? Do you still get that calling that, make the phone calls or find out what's going on or look on the computer or read the newspaper? How does that feel now that you're at the end of things?
Well, you'd be surprised. It's fairly easy to walk away. I'm still sorting out what to do next, but I'm not hawking the rent-own industry. I used to have to wake up every single morning of my life and scroll through 200 RTO alerts on Google for news about the industry. And I had to look at all the bills we've got. APRO's got a service that has a computerized retrieval system from every legislature in the country. So we have keywords. There are 35 or so phrases in terms. And I would have to review all of those bills. It popped through incredible numbers of bills over the last few years about rent-owned housing, for example. But I had to make sure that they didn't touch us. I don't do that now. I'm not, it's gone. It's gone.
You don't miss that at all.
And I don't, no, shit, no. I don't miss it. I didn't have to, they didn't run me off. They said, Charles said, you do what you want. If you're done, it's okay. If you want to stick around, that's okay. And I felt like APRO was in very good hands with Charles. He was running a tight ship and knew what he was doing and put a lot of energy in it. I thought, fine, I'll find something else to do. I haven't yet, but I'm not ruining the day that I retired. No, I feel fine about it.
So I've got one last question, and I'm just curious. When we were emailing to kind of get on this, I see that you have, you still have the law firm email. Are you still part of the law firm, or have you retired all the way?
That's just my email. I did that just so we'd have to change the email. And I've rented an office, and I have an office, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm a citizen of the world.
Well, I want to tell you, Mr. Wynn, we are so appreciative of everything that you've done from the point of APRO's inception throughout the years and letting us know what's going on, to giving the great advice that you've given over the years as far as what to do, how to do it, getting people aboard, and keeping an eye on all these things. I mean, I'm certainly curious. I kind of feel like you do. I don't think New York is going to go very far. I do think that we have a lot of legs on the ground that's going to really kind of tackle this and keep it where it's at. But there's, like any good bet, there's always the underdog. There's always the other side. There's always something that can come out on the other end. So I do, keep on top of it as best as I can and try to report on it when I can. But I'm with you. I like doing that. It's great to have been able to talk to you for a little while and kind of just reminisce about all the things that have been a rent to own and everything that's happening. I do wonder how this new administration going forward is going to help us or hinder us. I don't know if one or either way. I'd like to say that I think the deregulation and some of the ideas that are coming forward, especially with the CFPB, possibly, taking some of that power back and not having to worry about that as much, can really change how we do the things fundamentally and grow throughout the next few years. And I'm hoping that it just stays that way, because rent to own is it's an industry that has a lot of good people. trying to do a lot of good things. And I just want to keep that, going. And people like you, seeing someone like you retire, they go, oh, man, one of the greats has gone. Was there like a passing of the torch ceremony when you left? Did you get Charles the torch as things happen?
Well, Charles comes to Austin, I don't know how often, it's once a quarter, once every couple of months. And we try to get lunch together when he does. I stay in touch with Charles as needs be, but he ain't picking up the phone calling me, worrying about this or worried about that. He's, he knows how to do this job. He's been at it 2 or 3 years, and it's working. It's working. So, it was a lot of fun. I had a fun. It was a fun ride. It was good to me, and I did the best I could. I showed up every day, and now I'm done.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to miss you at LegCon this year. I'm going to be going with some other people from Florida and some of the other people that I know, some of the colleagues that I have across the country, and it's going to be great. I can't wait to see everything that's going on. I know that you've probably forgotten more about it than I've ever seen, but the truth is going in my second year, I'm looking forward to more of what when you first go, you don't even really know what to expect. They know what people tell you when you read on it. Going there and actually being in DC was my first time in DC, and I really it was just a whole take in. Now I think I'm a little bit more streamlined, and I kind of know what to expect, who I'm going with, some of the things that I want to say. Like you said, have a good story. At least come up with 2 or 3 and have one in the back pocket just in case. Let them know, that we are here doing the best we can. But, I just want to say I really appreciate everything that you've done at APRO, everything you've done for Rent to Own. I appreciate you being on the show. And I will tell you guys, if you want to be a part of what's going on at LegCon, please reach out to APRO. If you want to reach out to us here at the show, Pete at the RTO show podcast.com. If you want to ask Ed a question and you don't have his email, it's okay. You can DM the RTO show. And if it's a good question, I will pass it along to Ed, see if he has time to stop from the retirement, to slow down just enough to answer a question. We really appreciate it. Hit us up on Facebook, on Instagram. See us on YouTube. Mr. Ed, I really appreciate you being with us today.
Good work with your RTO show, by the way. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. And I will tell you guys, as always,
Get your collections low to get your sales high. Have a great one.